Hi everyone, I'm Jane Trotter and this is Accelerando Piano. In today's tutorial, I'm going to show you how not to death grip your chords. A common issue I see in my teaching practice is students tensing up as they play chords, which just causes an unnecessary build-up of tension and discomfort. One of my students is a keen cyclist, and after I gave her some advice about relaxing her arms, wrists and fingers, she said, "Oh, I know what you mean. It's just like cycling. Don't death grip your handlebars." I loved this phrase and thought it would apply equally as well to piano playing. So I'm going to start out with a couple of analogies to help you visualize what I mean. And then I'll move on to some tips for making your chord playing more comfortable. First, the cycling analogy. My student said that her fellow riders recommended that she imagine her handlebars are like thin cardboard tubes. So, when you're racing or travelling down a steep slope, you don't want to grip the bars so tightly and unrelentingly that you crush the tube. No white knuckle rides. My second example is this happy looking squishy ball. I can hold this ball in a relaxed fashion without it dropping out of my hand. I don't need to be squashing the poor thing into oblivion in order to keep it in my hand and prevent it from falling. If I hold it like that for too long, I'm going to get really uncomfortable and my muscles are going to fatigue. I don't need to use that much effort. And that's the key. Only use as much effort as you need. Let's apply this to playing our chords. Say you need to play a big, loud chord. To get a full, rich effect, you want to incorporate your body and arm weight behind the chord to help you achieve a big sound. With that purposeful, directed weight behind your fingers, the keys will go down quickly and strike the strings with more kinetic energy to produce the louder volume. After the notes have sounded, there's no additional benefit to maintaining the degree of pressure or weight you initially employed to play those notes. All you need is enough weight on the keys to keep them down for as long as required, whether it's only for one beat or four. Think of this. Wait for the creation, not the duration. Let me demonstrate. First, I'll show you what you want to avoid. I'm going to play some big chords and keep a lot of pressure on the keys after I've played them. See how my hands and wrists are really tight and rigid? And everything stopped very abruptly. Not to mention my chords sounded very brittle and percussive. So let's try it again with me relaxing my fingers, wrists and arms immediately after the notes have sounded. There's a lot of give or elasticity in my wrists. I'm sinking into the keys and then there's a sense of release. And notice the difference in my hands. They resume a more neutral, natural position after the chord. And I'm much freer to move. Also, the sound quality of the chords is warmer and more rounded. In the first example, the forward momentum of my arms and wrists just stopped, like I was suddenly hitting a brick wall. Whereas in the second example, I sank more into the keys. My wrists were engaged, and there was a sense of follow through in the motion. Now, I like to use a sports analogy with my students to illustrate what I mean, hence the ball. When you look at a cricket or baseball player hitting the ball, The bat doesn't suddenly stop when it makes contact with the ball. It continues on its trajectory and follows through in one large sweeping gesture. The whole movement is fluid. And it's the same for your chords. You definitely don't want to hit the keys and have everything feel like it's coming to a grinding halt with nowhere else to go. You want your arms and wrists to be more like shock absorbers. Your natural arm weight sinks into the keys and then releases. This is your follow through. With the proper relaxed release after playing your chord, you can then move into your next position on the keyboard with more ease, speed, and comfort. So, what can you do to help avoid death gripping your chords? Here are a couple of exercises. This first one will help you become more aware of how much sustained weight or pressure you're using across the duration of a chord, and you'll practice easing off that weight. Play a chord on your thigh. Sink firmly and maintain that degree of pressure for 3 counts. So 1, 2, 3, off. 1, 2, 3, off. Then try it again, but this time on beats 2 and 3, ease off so you can feel the pressure on your leg lighten while still keeping your fingers in contact with your thigh. And try to keep your wrist quite loose and mobile. So 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. In fact, it doesn't have to be done on your thigh. You could do it on your arm. So 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Playing on body parts is an excellent way to get important tactile feedback in a very immediate and direct way. The next really important skill to develop is improving the flexibility and mobility in your wrists. Because remember, your wrists are your shock absorbers. The freer they are, the better you're able to sink your body weight and arm weight into the chord and then release that weight without getting stuck. You saw earlier in one of my demonstrations how I was able to move my wrists freely around while I was still holding down the notes on the chord. You can't do that if you're in a death grip. So here are some exercises you can try. Okay, so the first thing we're going to try is an up and down action with your wrist. Let's play one note and we're going to use your third finger. And we're just going to drop and release. Do it slowly so you can really feel what you're doing. For this exercise, we're going to drop our wrist below the level of the keys. Now, I wouldn't normally recommend doing this, and you don't really want to be doing that when you're playing. But for this exercise, it's just to loosen things up and I guess extend your range of motion. So that's why we're dropping below the level of the keys here. Normally, you wouldn't do it. So dropping down, really feeling that weight. And then when you come up, let your hand go to neutral. See, that's really relaxed, floppy. Down and up to neutral. Remember I talked about the cricket player and the baseball player hitting the ball. So imagine the hand or your finger is the bat. The ball is the key. So here we go. We're batting, we're hitting the ball. And this last bit is your follow through. Like that. Second thing we're going to do is make a circle with our wrist. So really lightly and little as effort as possible, you're going to hold down the key this time and you're going to make circles with your wrist. And again, do it slowly. We don't want to go like that because you're not going to feel what you're doing. Imagine going round the face of a clock. So we start at 12, we're going around to 3 o'clock, down to 6 o'clock, round to 9 o'clock, and back to 12. And you can alternate clockwise and anti-clockwise as well. Now, one thing to bring into your attention is your elbow in this movement as well. Notice how my elbow and my wrist are connected in the movement. My whole forearm is engaged. So if you bring this into your thoughts as you're doing that, you'll find that you've got a lot of extra mobility down here. And that will really help you loosen your wrist. Okay, now we're going to try some chords on the keys. You could start out maybe with just 2 notes and then extend it to 3 and 4. I'm going to use 3 notes in my chord, and we're going to do what we did earlier on our thigh. So we're going to feel the weight sinking into the chords and into the keys on beat 1, and then we're going to ease off on beats 2 and 3. So 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And that feeling of release in your wrist will help. 1, 2, 3. As opposed to 1, 2, 3. Not moving. And a lot of students tend to brace or lock their wrists, and they do this kind of preemptively before that follow through and release. So you want to pay attention to that when you're doing this exercise. I'll show you what I mean. We don't want to do this. So you play a chord and then everything stops and then you release. So it's like, yep, got my weight down. Oh, I'm tight for a little bit. Oh, but then I relax. See if you can have that feeling of going down into the key and that release straight away without that little momentary bit of tension. What you can do just to feel that is to put your fingers on the back of your wrist, and you want to feel it as one continuous movement. And you'll be able to feel that. You could even do it without playing the keys and just feeling that up and down, and then add the key in and that release. The ability to use your natural body and arm weight to sink into a chord and then release is huge. It will improve the tonal quality of your pieces. It means you won't fatigue as quickly because you're not using as much effort. It means you can play for longer without getting tired. It means you'll be able to move around the keyboard more easily and quickly because you won't get stuck. And ultimately, it means you'll be able to play with greater confidence and musicianship. With a little bit of extra thought and awareness when you're practicing, coupled with improving the flexibility and suppleness of your wrists, you'll be able to banish the days of death gripping your chords and look forward to bringing new life into your playing.